The day has finally arrived. The same man that said, "Can't nobody hold me down," back in 1997, has officially been arrested by federal agents. All right, you white motherfuckers, all eyes on me. This is the I Refuse podcast. This is Miss Fox, the I Refuse podcast. I'm back. Yet another chapter in our Surviving Diddy series. Y'all were outside for about most of 2024 thinking it was a conspiracy and Department of Homeland Security did the raid not to take evidence but to hide it, and all this cockamamie shit that you would typically hear from people that wear them aluminum foil hats. But we here at the I Refuse podcast saw it coming. It was just a matter of when. We're up to about 13, 14 chapters over here at the I Refuse podcast between the YouTube channel and the podcast. Season 6 just started yesterday. Wherever you get your podcasts is where you can find the I Refuse podcast. We were skeptical at first when the producer, Lil Rod, filed his suit, and then more people started doing the same. And then we went over for those of you that are new to the I Refuse podcast, just giving you a brief timeline. You know, we went through all of that, and all of that is available on the I Refuse podcast YouTube channel where you're watching this video. I was saying the abstract on the podcast, Usual Suspects podcast. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. The federal government does not pounce the day after the raid. They don't pounce the day of, like, oh, we doing this raid, we got what we need. They've been in the grass in camouflage gear for a while. And it's not enough to simply file and document. I mean, that's definitely I would definitely say the Cassie suit and the filing and so how detailed it was, very eye-opening. And y'all were skeptical then. Then when we saw the hotel footage from 2018, where he attacked that girl in the hallway, y'all were still on one. Y'all were like, but we, the I Refuse podcast, were like, this motherfucker really got a problem. When you have video footage, it should be enough. And then, not too long ago, we were talking about Don Ricard. And I did say, I was like, a lot of what you're saying is more a witness thing, he say, she say kind of thing. Where was that back in November? But those of us that have been outside for a while, we saw some things that, you know, it's almost like a switch in this dude. When he doesn't get what he wants, he's going to force you. He's going to force you, one way or another, to agree with him. So last night, Diddy was arrested in New York City by federal agents from Homeland Security, based on a sealed indictment filed by the New York District Attorney for the Southern District of New York. They expect to move to unseal the indictment in the morning when there will be more details shared. He was arrested at the Park Hyatt Hotel in Midtown Manhattan and will spend the night in federal custody before he is brought to court for arraignment tomorrow. We said probably 2 or 3 videos ago in the series over here, you know, New York City had been working for a while to call in witnesses, get testimony, get a federal grand jury in Manhattan, which returned an indictment against him, which set in motion his arrest. Little FYI for those of y'all that are kind of new to this kind of process. And please spare me the, oh, you trying to take down a black man, oh, he's just trying to take down another black man, that pretty bitch set him up. Please. There is no justification for abusing women. There is no reason whether or not pink cocaine was involved, allegedly. There's just simply no reason. This is all about power and control. 2 very dangerous things. Controlling women, jealousy, insecurity. Very, very dangerous. Of course, he has a lawyer, Mark, and I can't pronounce that last name, calling it an unjust prosecution. You know what, Mr. Attorney? This didn't just materialize out of thin air. They have been clocking the evidence. They've been getting testimony from witnesses. They've been getting the legal documents. You know, when you file, technically it is public information. I mean, between lawyers, that's another thing. But if I can get it and bring it to y'all in the group chat, it must be public. And I really cannot wait for Megan Cuniff to have her say on Twitter, she's been feeding me real well since the Megan Tory situation. We are disappointed, his lawyer said, with the decision to pursue what we believe is an unjust prosecution of Mr. Combs by the U.S. Attorney's Office. Sean Combs is a music icon, self-made entrepreneur, loving family man, and proven philanthropist who has spent the last 30 years building an empire, adoring his children, and working to uplift the black community. When I tell you, you know, this definitely is not the time to give a statement, because it is possible that 2 things can be true. You can be a loving family man and still do shit behind the scenes, brutalize women and such, cheat on women, and because you are addicted to the limelight, you can't control your impulses, you're trying to give this image around a bunch of dudes, your drug mule or whatever, that you're really that dude, that you really have a lot more power than you actually do. Because nobody is above the law. You're not Scarface. You're not the Godfather. You just want to be something of influence. He's an imperfect person, but he is not a criminal. The lies you tell. To his credit, Mr. Combs has been nothing but cooperative with this investigation, and he voluntarily relocated to New York last week in anticipation of these charges. Please reserve your judgment until you have all the facts. These are the acts of an innocent man with nothing to hide, and he looks forward to clearing his name in court. Uh, we've been judging all year. We've been judging all year. A lot of the way people go about sex and doing drugs and forcing loved ones to do things, threatening people, sending big men to people's to the schools of their children. It's crazy. Like, this dude needs to be put away somewhere. Combs has been under investigation for the better part of a year since his former longtime girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, came forward with allegations in a civil lawsuit. At least 10 additional lawsuits followed. Combs has denied the allegations in all of them. Back in March, Combs' Los Angeles and Miami homes were raided by federal agents. Homeland Security Investigations spokesperson said in a statement at the time that the raid was executed as part of an ongoing investigation. And we said then that there was word that his private jet was intercepted and was forced to redirect back into the country. But in that time, right, from March to now, he pretty much just retreated to Florida, continued to relinquish his intellectual properties, his rights, his ownership of companies, essentially trying to liquidate any, I'll say, assets, executive power. Try to have us convinced with this like cinematic IG short where he's in a prayer circle. TD Jakes is saying a prayer. Like he really put something together. Like he was doing another music video, and it was just like this nigga's going down. This nigga's going down. Law enforcement sources told ABC News also in late March that federal agents with Homeland Security investigations seized a number of electronic devices as part of the court-authorized searches of Combs' two properties. The searches carried out in Los Angeles and Miami were part of a federal sex trafficking investigation into the hip-hop and liquor mogul. Home security agents flooded his mansions and gathered evidence as part of an investigation led by prosecutors in the Southern District of New York. When I tell you, this is probably going to be the most major news event. Like, at some point, you gotta realize some shit is just too large to ignore. Like I said, we are way beyond hearsay, way beyond speculation. We seen the video. I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all that can read Cassie's filing. And some things, when it's too detailed, is not just an allegation. For some women, this kind of shit is a way of life. And to those of you out there that say, oh, well, why don't you leave? When you have somebody that has forced you into a relationship while also is the head of your label, definitely can yield a strong arm, isolate you, and alienate you from producers, definitely intercept a person that they deem as a threat to this concept of a relationship or this idea of a relationship that y'all have. is connected can pay people to show up in public places, step to you, intimidate you, gaslight you into silence, interfere. Like, it's a psychological game. Psychological game that is 9 times out of 10 more damaging to your health than physical and emotional pain. Like, we're already down bad with anxiety and depression directly linked to the pandemic. But you got menace to societies like this. And then you have people on the outside looking in, skeptical. Like, you a pretty lady. What you got to be worried about? Oh shit, another pretty bitch getting a big payday. But at some point, y'all are going to learn that there are different types of abuse besides physical that is just as damaging, just as problematic. And months ago, Diddy knew the day was going to come. Now, personally, I'm like, nigga, why didn't you go to Bali to be roommates with Def Jam Simmons? You know, your mentor and your inspiration. But you know what? Again, while all of this was playing out in front of us, this man was on IG still trying to continue to present this narrative that I'm a family man, that I'm taking my daughters out to Nobu, that me and the boys and the rest of the family are on vacation in this water. Life is good. I'm blessed. I'm like, he been this way since the early 90s. And everybody is so caught up in this Super Bowl halftime thing with theories and speculations of y'all own, specifically aimed at Jay-Z, that this is the shit y'all should be talking about. Y'all should be having more discussions around psychological abuse, mental health of women. We've been told for many, many years that the black woman is the most disrespected human being in all the entire human race. But y'all are so committed to keeping misogyny alive that y'all don't realize that y'all are part of the problem. There's literally nothing keeping this man in the good graces. There's nothing to defend over there. There's no explanation or justification you can even materialize in your head to defend this man. There's just nothing here. There's just nothing here. And when I tell you, and I'm going to continue to say this all throughout 2024, truths will continue to be exposed. Some, if not all, NDAs have an expiration date. And we are at a point right now, shout out to Kalina from Diddy Dirty Money, we're at a point right now where we can tell what side of the aisle people are on in these kind of situations. Are you speaking in support of women, of what women have to say, or are you speaking to recuse yourself from any connection to what's being said? And when you do, like I read Kalina's statement and I was like, this gives, I signed the NDA, I'm keeping my mouth shut. I don't know nothing at all about what that girl is saying. And it's so unfortunate because it's like, when you put a price on a woman's life, because it's not just lawsuits, right? When you think about it, it's not just lawsuits. It is hush money, hush agreements. Because we've all heard, well, I have, I don't know about y'all. I've heard stories of, Diddy has no issue paying women money. Women that were signed to his label that didn't quite pop, giving them six figures just because. I theorize that he is not above putting money with an NDA, which is also a form of psychological warfare or abuse. And if you were in the limelight once and your greatest association is Diddy, which, of course, the value of that has gone down significantly since 2024 started, you are going to continue to make statements like that and it's so ignorant. It's when I tell you that kind of shit is like illiterate behavior. Like, mama, read the room. Read the room. We ain't heard much out of you in the 15 or so years that Diddy Dirty Money was a thing for that one album. You were in Love and Hip Hop for maybe a season, which was so weird. Because if you were a singer-songwriter, reality TV is the last place you should be. But here we are. Diddy is not the sword you want to fall on right now. Woman, man, animal, whatever. Not the sword you want to fall on right now. And whether or not you feel like there is some skepticism to I would say the bandwagoning of lawsuits, shut up. Some things should stay a draft in your IG or your Gmail or your Twitter or your Snapchat. Some things should just stay a draft. Nobody's looking for Kalina. Nobody is checking for, like, some of the suits that have been, or allegations that have been filed against Diddy, like the yacht stewardess, the model that said she was 17, 18 in the 90s in the studio. Haven't heard anything new since. And it's like, if you're going to be part of a gaggle of plaintiffs, you might want to track the track record of the lawyer you guys have all decided to choose. The one lawyer. Just like they have a Carfax for a car, they should have a lawyer fax. it's still too early to determine what was the tipping point. Was it the Homeland Security raid back in March? Was Cassie's lawsuit the thing that got everything popping? But we gonna keep track of this. We gonna watch this. We gonna, because oh happy day. Oh happy day. Diddy has been arrested in New York City. He has been arrested. And it's about damn time, man. For those of you that were like, oh, why is he not in jail? Why is he not in jail yet? It takes a little bit more. I'm going to keep saying this. It takes a little bit more than just one lawsuit filing and a settlement. If he's being arrested on federal sex trafficking, I'm going to put my theory out there and say it's definitely a result of that Homeland Security raid back in March. Now, the word on the street is that, this man had a penchant for secretly recording folks in some of these get-down rooms, and allegedly uses the evidence to blackmail folks. See, that's the other thing. Like, you fall into the charm, you fall into the motivational speeches, like, you fall into the whole thing. Do you want to walk with men or do you want to walk with that kind of shit? And you get caught up in I'm going back to the 90s. You get caught up in the Sean John, the excitement, and next thing you know, you're at Diddy's house at these parties. Now, since November, a couple of people that have podcasts that are were former VJs, MTV VJs, hip hop correspondents and stuff like that, have come out and said, I've been to Diddy's house back when, he threw those parties. Nothing went down with me. I went to bed. I woke up just fine. No problem. But when I tell you, it is like you're in the house and you think everything's fine. That motherfucker could be recording you while you sleep. Like when Kanye did those he did something real weird around the Donda album where it was like live feeds of his world, the venue and all that other stuff. Shit like that. Like you pay your money and you get to watch Kanye West sleep. That kind of shit. Like very Minority Report, very very weird. You just never know. Like anybody that's been to that man's house, Diddy's house, I don't know how long he's had that house prior to the Homeland Security raid, but anybody that's been to that man's house for parties and stuff, even if you went to the bathroom, your ass could have been on them tapes. I'm surprised there haven't been more lawsuits filed, or at least Investigations sought from the partygoers that have been to his house, to that specific house. Or maybe New York City. Most of the witnesses are the people in the tapes, and they're calling them like they're still. It's ongoing, is what I'm thinking. It's going to be a wild one. It's going to be a wild one. Federal sex trafficking. They don't play about that, man. At all. But we're gonna keep it locked in. Probably gonna be another video coming from the I Refuse podcast today. Until then, this is Mr. Fox, the I Refuse podcast. Continue to support the I Refuse podcast wherever you get your podcast. Season 6 has started as of yesterday. We dropped a new episode last night. Season 6, episode 1. We will continue to produce every week. And this YouTube channel will continue to stay alive. Also get into the Usual Suspects podcast. And if you feel so inclined, the I Refuse podcast After Dark, which just concluded season 2. It's Mr. Fox, the I Refuse podcast. Catch y'all later. Fendi, like the bag. This is the I Refuse.